Who doesn't love roses? They are such symbols of beauty and love, but they can be difficult to grow, especially the antique varieties. Growing roses organically is possible and very rewarding. This guide will help you grow fabulous roses and talk about some fun things we can do with them. Hi, I'm Amy, a master gardener. I inherited this rose garden from the previous owners when we moved in late February. I've had roses in the past, but there were about 20 roses here. Some of them were not healthy, and I'll talk about that later in the video. There are many types of roses, and yes, they are great for landscaping, but they also do fine with other flowers and even vegetables. Where I pulled out some dead roses, I've stuck peppers and tomatoes in. Now I have a pretty and practical garden space. So let's start by talking about the main types of roses. Floribundas produce clusters of flowers on each stem and get between 2 and 4 feet. They are fairly easy care and perfect for borders or along a pathway. I'm a sucker for the roses named after famous people, and I've been known to pick a rose by the name, regardless if it fits my needs. Probably you shouldn't do that. Old varieties or heirloom roses are those introduced prior to 1867. These are often very fragrant roses and lush. Modern hybrid roses are introduced after 1867 and are bred for shape, size, and fragrance. Hybrid tea roses have large blooms and are ideal for cutting, but need harder they can be harder to maintain compared to other rose types, as they can be susceptible to diseases and pests. Hybrid tea roses typically grow to 3 to 6 feet tall. The fun thing is they come in lots of colors and fragrances. The shrub roses are exceptionally hardy and disease resistant, so great for beginners. Shrub roses bloom repeatedly and heavily throughout the season. They're super rugged, they tolerate cooler summers as well. They also produce more hips than other types of roses. Rose hips are high in vitamin C and great for teas. Climbing roses are sturdy and repeatedly bloom throughout the season, but they need a very sturdy trellis. Miniature roses are perfect for containers and patios and will stay under 2 feet tall. So let's talk about growing roses. Roses do best in soil rich in organic matter with good drainage and slightly acidic to neutral pH, so 6.0 to 6.5. Zone 6 folks, take note. Roses don't like heavy soil. Before planting, add lots of compost or aged manure into your garden bed. Roses require a sunny location that provides at least 6 hours of direct sunlight daily, ideally morning sun. You want good air circulation between plants as it helps reduce fungal disease and pressure. Morning sun is best because it dries dew from the leaves, which helps prevent disease spread. Roses grown in the partial sun may not die at once, but they do weaken gradually and produce subpar blooms and may not be as hardy. These are bare root roses. Like trees, they should be planted soon after you get them. They have been kept chilled and are dormant, but will start growing soon after planting. Plant them in early spring in zones 5 and 6. You might want to soak the roots for a couple of hours to rehydrate them. Dig a hole about twice as wide and deep as the root system, creating a mound of soil in the center for the roots to be supported. Position the rows so the graft union sits about 2 to 3 inches below the soil level. Container grown roses are easy to find at big box stores, but might not have the variety that you find in bare roots. They can be planted from spring through fall. Gently loosen the root ball before planting and ensure the graft union is similarly positioned below the soil's surface. Often we plant the graft above the soil, as in trees, but for roses, we want that graft below the soil. Water newly planted roses deeply and mulch around the base with organic materials such as shredded bark, compost, or straw, maintaining a thickness of 2 to 3 inches. This is how I found our roses from the previous owner. Don't do this. First, the red mulch is just gross and contains chemical dyes. Second, it's never good to pile wood mulch on top of the plant. For both zones 6 and 5, prune back tall stems, add some additional soil around the base, and mulch on top of that to protect the roots for winter. Zone 5 friends may need additional winter protection, especially if you get a lot of snow or harsh winds. A simple cage like this, filled loosely with leaves, will provide insulation but still allow for necessary air circulation. I'm not a big fan of wrapping plants in burlap, but it is also an option. If you live in a colder climate, consider growing roses close to the foundation of your home. This provides plants with some degree of winter protection. And yes, that's one of my peppers next to the rose. Mulching conserves soil moisture, suppresses weeds, and stabilizes the soil temperature, which is good in the wintertime. It also will decompose and add nutrients to the soil. But you want to regularly, especially since it's decomposing, we need to refresh the mulch every year. So things like wood chips and straw are good. And remember to allow about an inch of space between the mulch and the base of the rose. Diligently water your roses. Soak the entire root zone at least twice weekly in dry, hot summer weather. Avoid frequent shallow watering because it doesn't reach the deeper roots and may encourage fungus growth. Drip irrigation or soaker hoses are ideal as they reduce water waste and minimize getting wetness on the foliage. Apply organic fertilizer in spring and summer. My favorite is fish emulsion, which I'll link below. I also apply well-aged manure in early spring, a couple shovelfuls around the root zone. Adding calcium to your soil via bone meal or rock phosphate will help the rose ward off disease and produce better blooms. I like the Down to Earth brand. Pruning encourages air circulation, removes diseased or damaged wood, and stimulates new growth. In early spring, cutting back to outward facing buds. Remove dead, weak, and crossing canes. Roses should have green, healthy looking stems. Stems or canes that are dark brown or black have been damaged by disease or cold weather and should be pruned out. I removed several roses that had numerous dead stems and found the roots were also damaged. Throughout the growing season, deadhead spent blooms to encourage continual flowering. Roses can get sick, and I have a playlist on dealing with pests and diseases organically. I also inherited black spot, evidenced by these black round spots on the leaves, which leads to defoliation. I am removing the infected foliage, pruning, and spraying the plants with neem oil. Aphids like to cluster on new growth. You can spray with water to dislodge them, introduce beneficial predators like ladybugs, and apply insecticide soap or neem oil. Powdery mildew is a fungal growth that affects new growth and buds. You can help prevent it by ensuring adequate spacing and airflow. Treat outbreaks with neem. Japanese beetles can cause extensive foliage damage. Handpick beetles early in the morning and dispose of them in soapy water. Beneficial nematodes and milky spore bacteria applied to your soil can reduce their larvae populations. There are lots of products we can make with rose petals and rose hips. I love to add dried petals to a bath as an indulgence. Combined with some Epsom salts and essential oil, it's very soothing, especially after working outside all day. Rose water is a natural toner and anti-inflammatory. Gently heat rose petals in water. Let them simmer, Then strain the liquid to extract the petals. Rose water is also used in Middle Eastern dishes for flavoring things like Turkish delight and rice pudding. Rose essential oil is extracted through distillation and used more in aromatherapy and if you want to make a salve. To make, you need to infuse the petals in a carrier oil like olive oil. If you haven't made rose petal jam or jelly, it's a must-do. It has a floral, slightly tart flavor and goes great with scones or French toast for breakfast. Rosehip tea is rich in vitamin C. Dried rose hips are tangy and they go well with honey, great for immune support, and if you have a cold. Dried rose petals are a popular base for homemade potpourri and sachets. Mix them with lavender, cloves, or citrus peel. Understanding color symbolizes and enhances emotional impact of the roses in your garden. And it's just fun. So red symbolizes deep love, romance, and passion. White represents purity, innocence, and reverence, so popular for weddings. Yellow is all about friendship, happiness, and warmth. Pink indicates admiration, gratitude, and grace. And orange reflects enthusiasm, energy, and desire. I hope this video has been helpful. Let me know your favorite rose in the comments. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more organic gardening and wildlife conservation videos. Thanks for watching and have a very sunny day.